Welcome to Science Views from the Valley. I'm your host, Dr. Kelly Kassan. Science Views from the Valley is a monthly program that will explore interesting science topics and how they relate to the San Luis Valley and the Upper Rio Grande region. Good morning and welcome to my March show. I hope you are enjoying the warm spring weather that we've been experiencing the last couple of days. March is the month in which we celebrate a great Irish-American holiday, St. Patrick's Day. To celebrate, today I will discuss the wildlife of Ireland. Ireland is an island, part of the British Isles, which include Great Britain, the Isle of Man, the Inner and Outer Hebrides, and the Northern Islands. The archipelago also consists of over 6,000 smaller islands. Ireland is believed to have separated from Great Britain approximately 16,000 years ago, while the climate was still cold and local ice caps still existed. After the last ice age ended 10,000 years ago, Ireland became much wetter, which resulted in the expansion of bogs. Bogs are nutrient-poor wetlands that are strongly acidic due to the expansion of sphagnum moss. Sphagnum moss, when it dies, forms layers of dead plant material that becomes peat. The layers of peat can reach 3 to 23 meters in thickness and is still used as fuel today. Woody vegetation, shrubs and trees, became the dominant plant as the temperatures in Ireland increased after the glaciers retreated. I'd like to start this show with two extinct species that lived in Ireland. The Irish elk is probably the most magnificent of the wildlife that lived in Ireland. The Irish elk was nearly 7 feet tall at the shoulders and weighed up to 1,500 pounds. The males sported enormous palmate antlers that weighed 88 pounds on average and were approximately 12 feet in width. The Irish elk antlers are still being discovered in the sediments of ancient lakes and in peat bogs. The Irish elk lived mainly in Irish bogs where they fed on grasses and forbs. Irish elk is also believed to have fed on leaves during stressful seasons like winter and droughts. The Irish elk went extinct in Ireland approximately 7,700 years ago, though some individuals managed to survive a little longer in Siberia. One hypothesis on why the Irish elk went extinct is the conversion of the open habitat where the Irish elk preferred to roam to dense forests as the earth warmed up after the last ice age. Another species that went extinct was the great auk, which was a large flightless bird that went extinct in Ireland in approximately 1844. This species was nearly 3 feet tall and weighed up to 11 pounds. Though this species had a wide distribution in the North Atlantic, the remains of great auks are found in northwestern Ireland. The great auk was a graceful swimmer and a powerful diver, but it was awkward on land. They fed on marine fish and crustaceans. Their reproductive rate was quite slow. A pair of great auks would produce a single egg. The egg was nearly 5 inches long. The great auks were biparental, with both parents taking turns incubating the egg and later feeding their single chick. The great auk, in part due to its size, was a popular food source. Their skins and down feathers were also highly prized. One burial site was surrounded by more than 200 great auk beaks, believed to be the remains of a burial suit made from auk skins. The great auk's eggs were used to produce puddings and other foods. Thus, hunting is most likely the reason why their numbers declined. The remaining few great auks were killed by people searching for specimens to sell to museums. Today, Ireland is home to a number of European animal species. These include the European badger, which is the largest terrestrial carnivore in Ireland. The European badger weighs approximately 30 pounds and lives mainly in burrows. They dig these burrows, called setts, with their long, large claws. The European badger builds the most complex burrows of any animal, consisting of several chambers and exits. The badger sett can house several families of badgers for decades. European badgers are fastidious, often changing their straw and grass bedding in their burrows. They also remove soil material from the setts. Badgers have been observed taking their bedding out on sunny winter mornings and retrieving it later in the day. Spring cleaning of the sett is done prior to the birth of the cubs and is believed to reduce parasite levels in the sett. The European badger is a hibernating species. They prepare for their winter sleep by accumulating fat reserves like any other hibernating species. The sett is cleaned, and the nesting chamber is filled with grass, straw, and other bedding. Just before hibernation, the badgers will seal their sett with dry leaves and earth. European badgers also exhibit a type of burial. When a badger dies within the burrow, his family will seal off the chamber and dig a new one for the surviving family members. Badgers are omnivorous, feeding on a large variety of insects, rabbits, and rodents, as well as cereals and fruits. They, in turn, are preyed upon by a large number of predators, including the golden eagle, the Eurasian eagle owls, and other large raptors. Another Irish carnivore is the red fox. This species is found in most of the northern hemisphere, but the Celts regarded the red fox as a symbol of trickery and deceit. The word shenanigan is believed to have descended from a Gaelic phrase that meant, "I play the fox." The Gaelic name for the red fox is Madra Rua. This species is the only wild canine species found in Ireland. The red fox is the largest of all fox species, measuring nearly 2 feet in height at the shoulder and weighing up to 30 pounds. They are extremely agile, being able to jump fences as high as 6 feet and 7 inches. The red fox is territorial, using urine to mark the boundaries of their territory like any other canine. They live in family groups within the territory, consisting of the parents and their juveniles. The juvenile red fox stay with their parents until they are able to win territories of their own. The red fox is mostly monogamous and provide biparental care of the offspring. Biparental care is crucial since the newborn foxes, called kits, are born blind, deaf, and toothless. The mother stays with their nearly helpless babies for 2 to 3 weeks. The father provides food for the mother during this period. The kits will begin to eat solid food at approximately 4 weeks. If the mother is killed before the kits are able to feed themselves, the father will take over as their sole provider. In the wild, foxes rarely live more than 5 years. However, in captivity, the red fox are known to live as long as 15 years. Red foxes communicate often through body language involving different postures, ear, and tail movements. Foxes also have different vocalizations. Scientists that study the red fox have identified at least 12 different vocalizations by adults and 8 by the juveniles. These vocalizations are divided into contact calls, which are used by foxes that are approaching each other, and interaction calls, which are used to determine status. A submissive individual will produce a high-pitched whine and shriek when interacting with a more dominant fox. If the foxes are similar in status, they will make a rattling sound that is called geckering. Domesticated foxes also make a laughing sound when interacting with their human handlers. Though most people think of canines as being strict carnivores, the red fox is an omnivore. They feed primarily on rodents, birds, and a variety of plant material, including berries and other fruit. Though the red fox seem to find moles distasteful, they will capture them alive and present them to their kits as toys. Red foxes also have different coat color variants, including gray, black, amber, and silver. Silver foxes have been domesticated and are raised on fur farms. This led to a famous genetic study by Russian geneticist Dmitry Belyaev, whose attempts to breed a gentle fox led to not only friendlier foxes, but also foxes that wag their tails and lick their human caretakers to show affection. Another surprise was that these gentle foxes' physical appearance also changed. Their fur coats became more spotted, their ears more floppy instead of standing straight up, and the tails became curled. This study confirmed an earlier hypothesis that a suite of genes that coded for both behavioral and physical traits was responsible for tameness in a number of species, including the red fox. The Irish hare is currently a subspecies of the mountain hare, though recent genetic studies have indicated that the Irish hare may warrant promotion to full species status. Mountain hares are large lagomorphs that live primarily in polar and alpine habitats. Unlike other polar lagomorphs, the Irish hare remains brown all year long. Irish hares are nocturnal animals that prefer to live in undisturbed grasslands. During the day, the Irish hare rests in a flattened patch of grass or a hollow, remaining hidden from potential predators. Female hares are slightly larger than the males, reaching approximately 9 pounds in weight. Females, due to their larger size, are often seen dominating males with boxing and kicking matches. These behaviors are often seen in the spring, which led to the phrase, mad as a March hare. The young are precocial. They are born with their eyes open and fully furred. The offspring are also able to run shortly after birth. Despite being more independent, baby hares have a very high mortality. Nearly 20% of those born will survive to their first year. Part of the high mortality is due to the young living above ground in high grasses, which hide them from predators but leave them vulnerable to humans mowing or farming the same grasslands. Though the hare lives in grasslands, they prefer to eat heather and sedges. The Irish hare is also known to browse on birch trees and willows, especially in the winter when heather and sedges are scarce. Irish hares are also the prey preferred by another subspecies endemic to Ireland, the Irish stoat. The Irish stoat is related to the common weasel. Like the weasel, it has a long, thin body and is a carnivore. Though it looks similar to the common Eurasian stoat, the Irish stoat is a distinct subspecies that is found only in Ireland and the Isle of Man. Their natural habitat is wooded areas and shrublands dominated by heather, where they can find their preferred prey, rabbits, hares, and birds. The stoat is highly sexually dimorphic. The females are much smaller than the males. The male Irish stoat is approximately 15 inches in length and weighs just shy of a pound. The female stoat is shorter, approximately 11 inches, and weighs less than half a pound. The Irish Stoat is an agile climber and readily climbs trees in order to eat birds' eggs. They are also competent swimmers and will hunt fish in slow-moving streams and along lake shores. The Irish Stoat have a very high metabolism due to their long body shape, which allows heat to escape their bodies much more quickly than animals with a more stocky shape. Thus, the Irish Stoat are voracious eaters, consuming over 20% of their body weight each day in order to maintain their weight. Though the Irish Stoat is a brown animal with a white underbelly, the young, called kits, are born completely white. The newborn kits are entirely dependent on their mother for 5 weeks. The young become totally independent at 12 weeks, ready to hunt their own prey and establish territories. The average wild stoat is estimated to live 3 years, but a few individuals have been recorded to live up to 10 years. Most birds in Ireland are species that can be found in Europe and other parts of the world. The exception is the red grouse, which only lives on the British Isles, including Ireland. The red grouse is a subspecies of the willow ptarmigan, but scientists recently have supported promoting it to full species status based on molecular data. This large game bird looks different from the willow ptarmigan, having a reddish-brown plumage all year long. The males have a reddish-brown plumage and have a distinctive red comb above each eye, while the females have a more yellowish plumage with fine barred markings on the underparts and have smaller red combs. This difference in plumage color and markings helps them camouflage better against the high grasses and sedges of the Irish moors. Grouse populations are unusual in that they demonstrate regular cycles of high population densities followed by population crashes. This population cycle is thought to be due to a parasitic roundworm. The grouse eat the juvenile roundworms, which enters the gastrointestinal system and burrows into the large intestine. There the worm causes internal bleeding and damage to the intestinal walls, which reduces the amount of nutrition that the grouse can absorb from its food. The eggs of these worms exit the grouse through the fecal matter, where they land on the grasslands and start the parasitic cycle all over again. The red grouse is closely related to chickens, and you may find that their calls are quite similar to chickens. The red grouse is mostly monogamous during a single breeding season, and both parents protect their young. The chicks are precocial and are able to walk soon after hatching. The chicks are also able to fly within 2 weeks of hatching and are considered full grown at 30 to 35 days. The red grouse eats primarily plant shoots, seeds, and heather flowers. Their chicks have higher protein needs, so the parents will often take the chicks to boggy areas where insects are plentiful. Ireland has few reptiles. No native land turtles are seen in Ireland, though sea turtles are fairly common. Despite the legend of St. Patrick, Ireland never had any native snakes. When land bridges formed between the European continent, Great Britain, and Ireland, the climate in Ireland was too cold for nearly all reptiles. The snakes in the legend were an allegory for paganism, whose popularity declined when Catholicism was spread by St. Patrick. Only one lizard species migrated to Ireland before the island separated from Great Britain, the Viviparous lizard, also called the common lizard. This lizard was able to migrate to Ireland despite the cold climate because it is very resistant to cold. These lizards thermoregulate like all reptiles do, but they also thermoconform, meaning that they conform to the environmental temperatures during cold periods. Studies of the lizard found that they are able to survive the freezing of 50% of their total body water and can survive more than 24 hours in freezing temperatures. Yet this species does not have antifreeze proteins like many other species that live in very cold environments. The viviparous lizard is a tiny lizard. It weighs less than 1 ounce and is called viviparous because it gives birth to live young instead of laying eggs as most lizards do. The Irish population of these lizards are completely viviparous, though Spanish populations of these lizards lay eggs. Recent research indicate that the viviparous and the oviparous, the egg-layer populations, are unable to interbreed, which would make these lizards separate species. Male viviparous lizards have a much larger head than the females. This characteristic may be due to the male's mating behavior, which involves grabbing the female with his jaws before mating with her. Male lizards are also known to compete with each other for females, again making a large head size more favorable to reproductive success. Another unusual characteristic of the viviparous lizard is that the color of the female indicates its reproductive success. 3 color variants of the viviparous lizard have been observed: yellow, orange, and a mixture of yellow and orange. Yellow females have more young than the orange, but the orange females are larger than the yellow lizards. The larger orange females are able to compete more successfully for food and other resources. The mixed orange and yellow females, which are larger than the yellows and have more offspring than the orange females, overall have a greater reproductive success. 2 amphibian species are native to Ireland: the Ntterjack Toad and the smooth newt. The smooth newt is a brownish-green animal that resembles lizards. The newt, however, differs from lizards in that they have moist skin, have aquatic young, and do not have amniotic eggs. Instead, the newt eggs are jelly-like, like the relatives, the frogs, toads, and salamanders. Though the adult newts primarily live on land, they must return to a body of water to breed. Their preferred sites are small puddles or ponds that have direct sunlight and lack fish. The males become brighter in color during this period and develop a crest that runs the length of the male's body. The males court females by vibrating his tail against his body, then lashing his tail to fan his pheromones towards the female. If the female is attracted to the male, she will then follow him. After mating, the female newts will produce 100 to 500 jelly-like eggs, attaching them to aquatic plants. The larva will hatch after 10 to 20 days. Some of the young will exhibit paedomorphism, a phenomenon where the individual retains their juvenile characteristics and will remain aquatic. Studies of the paedomorphic common newts discovered that several environmental features favor paedomorphosis: cold water, a low density of newts, and abundant food. When these paedomorphic individuals are placed in aquariums, they will complete their metamorphosis into terrestrial adults. The Ntterjack toad is the only toad species native to Ireland, though its range is restricted to the coastal areas of Ireland, County Kerry, and County Wexford. The Ntterjack toad is considered endangered in Ireland, and efforts are being made to create suitable ponds for them in the hopes of increasing their numbers. The Ntterjack toad resembles other toads, except for a bright yellow stripe that runs down its back. This yellow stripe helps the toad hide amongst the similar colored sand sedges that are common in their preferred habitats. The Ntterjack toad's legs are also much shorter than other toads' legs, giving it an unusual running gait rather than the hopping motion that most people associate with toads. The Ntterjack toads begin to spawn in late April and last until late July. The mating call of the male Ntterjack toad is distinctive and loud. These calls can be heard nearly a mile away. The female will produce between 1,500 and 7,500 eggs, which will hatch into tadpoles. The tadpoles will feed and metamorphose into toadlets in approximately 3 to 8 weeks. Adult toads will hibernate in burrows during the winter. In local astronomical news, the March equinox occurred on March 21st, the official day of spring. The first full moon after the spring equinox will be on April 16th, so Easter will fall on the first Sunday after the full moon, which happens to be on the very next day on April 17th. The Lyrid's meteor shower occurs on April 22nd and 23rd. This meteor shower is about average and is caused by the remnants of comet C 1861 G1 Thatcher. The best viewing of the meteors, estimated to be about 20 per hour, will be after midnight. Most of the meteors will appear to be coming from the constellation Lyra, named after the Lyre of Orpheus. The constellation Lyra contains the second brightest star in the northern hemisphere sky, Vega. Vega is a bluish star that is approximately twice the mass of our own sun. Vega is also relatively close to the Earth, estimated to be about 25 light years away. The comet that causes the Lyrid showers is a long-period comet. It takes approximately 415.5 years to complete its orbit. The comet was last seen in 1861 and is expected to return to our solar system in 2278. I hope you enjoyed my talk on Irish wildlife. My next show will be on April 28th. Leonardo da Vinci was born in April, so I will devote April's show to his scientific accomplishments. If you would like to hear a particular topic, contact me at spiderwomankrza@gmail.com. If you would like to hear one of my previous shows, they are archived on YouTube on the channel Science Views from the Valley, Alamosa, CO. I would like to thank the KRZA staff for their help in broadcasting this show, and to all of my Science Views from the Valley listeners. Have a good day.